Ontonagon.
Oh, yes. The mosquitoes aren't that bad yet. The mosquitoes are natural bird. Yes. I grew up in Minnesota.
Did you?
President of the Ontonagon County Historical Society, and we're happy to welcome you to our lighthouse.
Well, thank you very
This
much.
is the westernmost lighthouse in Michigan. It was built in 1866, replacing the original wooden frame lighthouse that was built here in 1851. Ontonagon was from 1850 up to just after the Civil War, probably the busiest and largest port on Lake Superior.
Really?
55% of the copper that was produced in the United States for the Union War effort came from this area.
Wow. And it started with the Ontonagon Rock, right?
The Ontonagon boulder, which, by the way, we have, the original, of course, is in the Smithsonian, but we have an exact size replica of it, an actual casting in our museum.
Wow.
If you'd like to see that later, I'd be happy to show it to you.
Yeah, I just was reading about Douglas Houghton's trip.
In 1840. He was the first state geologist.
Yeah.
Actually, he was a botanist and a medical doctor.
Right.
He was the only man of science in Michigan at that time.
So if you're a scientist, you could do anything.
If you're a scientist, you wear a number of hats. Anyway, this lighthouse, as I said, was built in 1866. Most lighthouses of this class, and you get some outside pictures of you'll see what I mean. This is called the schoolhouse lighthouse, schoolhouse architecture. It looked like a little schoolhouse with a bell and so forth on it. The part we're standing in right now was added in 1890. It's a 19-foot by 19-foot kitchen. The original kitchen was upstairs. And everything in this lighthouse, as we've furnished it, is functional. We do serve meals out here. We pump water off this pump if I give it enough primer. The stove works, all the kitchen uses wood and coal. As you can see, as we came in, we had a very ample supply of coal available.
Yes.
But this was probably one of the most challenging parts of the restoration, because we had to gut this room right down to the ground. This floor you're standing on was put in about 4 years ago. And it's oil finished as the original was. It's not varnished.
Yeah.
But everything in here, like I say, works, functions, and we try to keep the thing as authentic as possible. Don't look too closely at that battery-powered clock. The first domestic electricity was put in here in 1916, original fixtures and bulbs. You won't see light filaments like that in many places. Anyway, if you come in here, we make no pretenses about this room at all. This is just our general maritime display room. We're starting our collection here. And our lighthouse committee meets here from time to time. I was telling you about the beach accretion. I'll show you more later, but here's the lighthouse keeper who was sitting on the beach with his intimate son in 1900. The beach was here. Wow. Now it's a quarter of a mile that way, of course.
Right.
We do a thing here in October. We call it the lighthouse haunting. It's not meant to be a... Oh, that, by the way, is the 14-mile white lighthouse that you'll be coming to. Those are the ruins.
There's still that much of it left?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that looks good.
Oh, yes. And the property... The Adjutant General had sent a surplus Mexican war cannon to Ontonagon to protect the harbor against British incursions. There was this paranoia in Michigan about Canada being over there. Don't forget, in the War of 1812, Detroit had been occupied by the British for 2 years.
Okay.
So there was always this fear. So, they didn't want these developing copper mines to fall under British control. So they sent a cannon here. You wonder what a 6-pounder could do against Her Majesty's fleet sailing up the Ontonagon River, but it made people feel better. So on the 4th of July, they would roll this thing out, and they would just put a charge in it and throw a cannonball at it and fire it, and then someone would read the Declaration of Independence. They'd have a sailboat race. Thomas Stripe was standing there watching this take place. He was only in his 30s at the time, and they had lit the frizzen or the fuse, and one of his friends came walking out of a nearby saloon. 3 sheets to the wind. He said, "What's going on out here?"
Yeah.
And Stripe jumped forward. He said, "You get out of the line of fire, push the man out of the way." The gun went off, took Stripe's arm off. And you can imagine what a cannonball like this does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, just like he just took his arm.
Well, it'd come out at about 750 feet per second out of that cannon.
Really?
Yeah, and this would, this is not the cannonball, of course.
Yeah.
It's not Lake Superior, but this is,
Is that made of lead?
no, that's iron.
Iron.
Iron. But yet,
Really?
canola oil is actually wild cabbage seed oil.
Huh.
Yeah,
And that's what they would burn?
that's what they burned in the lighthouse here because, but by the time the Civil War had ended, that was getting pretty expensive. Because that was burned in France, where the Fresnel lenses had been developed. But here in America, they, except for using whale oil along the seaboards, you know, and whales were getting a little scarce by that time too. So they're looking for alternatives. And then along comes Drake over there in Pennsylvania with this black sticky stuff coming out of the ground. And it wasn't long before the technology was developed to refine that, and you had mineral oil or kerosene.
Huh.
This can here, by the way, is one of the original implements from the 1851 lighthouse. This was used to haul the canola oil and then later on kerosene up to the tower.
Wow.
The lighthouse keeper, of course, had to keep exact, perfect records. If you'll plug your ears.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, wow.
There's two reciprocating bellows that you inflate by.
I hope you weren't recording during that.
I got a Jim
Thing